a kind of gray, this kind of gray, snowy day. So I'd like to just start with the title of this conference, From Languishing to Flourishing. I love that part of it because it reminds me of the journey of a flower. It makes me think of the flower as a seedling and then a bud and then eventually blossoming into this just beautiful flower. And why shouldn't we all have the opportunity to flourish, even when we're faced with caregiving challenges? So one of the ways that we can flourish is to practice gratitude. Yes, gratitude. You don't need a prescription for it. It doesn't have any harmful side effects. And it's perfectly free and accessible to everyone. Where do you find it? It tends to reside right in the heart. So gratitude actually elicits the same feel-good hormones in the body, such as serotonin and dopamine, which bathe our central nervous system in this feeling of overwhelming happiness, takes us out of our stressful state of being, even if temporarily. Feeling grateful gives us something to focus on beyond our struggles and cultivates heart-centered qualities like happiness, joy, kindness, generosity, appreciation, and love. Being grateful makes us happier and healthier, and we know that we become a better caregiver when we're taking care of ourselves first. So you may be asking, how is it possible to feel gratitude when you carry so much stress of your own, especially as a caregiver? And that's a very valid question. As professional and family caregivers, we know too well the stress that you may be experiencing, compassion fatigue. That is the kind of stress that you carry when you're caring for someone else who has significant mental and emotional distress of their own. Naturally, you can't help but absorb some of their stress into yourself. And so you may know that stress has all kinds of harmful effects on the body. And the body is usually the first indicator that something is not quite right. It will give off signals. So some of the signals of compassion fatigue are extreme exhaustion, mental, physical, and emotional, anxiety, depression, irritability, headaches, weight loss, weight gain, and a feeling of hopelessness. And there are actually so many more. If left unchecked, the health and well-being of the caregiver is often at risk. So perhaps I can illustrate this a little bit better with a simple glass of water. So I'm holding in my hand a glass of water here, and I'd like you to take a look at it and just think to yourselves how much you think this glass of water weighs, how heavy it is. I'll give you a moment to just peruse my little glass of water here. Okay, so if you thought maybe 12 ounces, 14 ounces, you would probably be in the right ballpark. But in reality, it's not how much this glass of water weighs, but how long I have to hold it. For example, if I hold this glass for a minute, I'm going to be just fine. If I try to hold it for an hour, I would say my arm, my hand is going to really start hurting. But if I have to hold it for an entire day, that's just not going to be sustainable. I'm going to be in a lot of pain. It's going to hurt, and I won't be able to carry on. And so again, it's not how long, or it's not how heavy it is, but how long I hold it. And the same can be said of stress. If we carry our burdens over and over again without ceasing, without resting, then it's not going to be possible to carry on. And so, just like with this glass of water, we have to put our burdens down every once in a while and rest. When we do, we come back to whatever challenges we face with a renewed spirit and a refreshed perspective. And that's so important. And so how can you put your burdens down when you're so busy with caregiving duties? by bringing a little bit of self-care into your daily routine. At Courage to Caregivers, our motto is, self-care isn't selfish. It's as important to care for yourself as it is to care for someone else. So we know that deep breathing, meditation, and mindful movement and deep rest are the 4 key components to self-care. So let's talk about breathing first. Did you know that regulating your breathing can have a huge impact on regulating your stress level? The breath is an important tool, and we can use it anytime we need it. It's always with you, and it's portable. So when we're stressed, we breathe in a manner that's very shallow and rapid. And you can feel yourself doing this when you're under a lot of pressure, and we breathe like this. And when we do, we're not getting those fully oxygenated breaths that nourish the body and that fill us with all kinds of good things that we need. When we're breathing like that, we're in the fight or flight mode or the sympathetic nervous system. And that state of being is just fine if you're running from a bear that's chasing you in the woods. It's a great system to have when you're in danger, but we don't want to live in that space. It's not good for us in any way. And when we breathe deeply, it's a whole different ballgame. When we breathe deeply from the chest, the ribs, and the belly, and the diaphragm, which is the muscle that sits below the ribs on both sides of the abdominal cavity. When we breathe from there, we allow for fully oxygenated, efficient breaths, and that does all kinds of good things in the body. Then we are in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is just where we want to be. When we breathe deeply, our heart rate lowers, our blood pressure lowers, we boost the immune system, we start the digestive process in a natural way. We lower the output of the stress hormone cortisol that has such damaging inflammatory effects in the body. And we are lifted out of our state of depression and anxiety. All of these things so important. And just imagine, this can be done with the breath. So let's take a few moments to explore that and have a little bit of an embodied experience of breathing deeply. So I'd like to invite you to get really comfortable in your chair here. Just shifting your weight from one side of the chair to the other. And this is so we're nice and grounded on the seat. We don't want to be slouching because when we slouch, we don't breathe efficiently. And then placing your feet flat on the floor. So if your legs are crossed, uncross the legs. And the reason we do this is we want to feel that connection with the floor, with the earth beneath you. And so if you're a short person like me, you might need to bring a pillow behind your back because we want the feet to touch the ground. We don't want to be holding any tension in the legs. And so placing the hands on the thighs or on the knees. Let's take the shoulders up to the ears. So rolling the shoulders up to the ears for just a moment so that you're not holding any tension in that area either. Good. And now I invite you to close the eyes or leave them softly cast down in front of you, whatever is most comfortable for you. Good. And when you do, when you're feeling all nice and grounded, I invite you to once again bring your awareness to your feet, feeling that connection of the floor. And then feeling the connection of your body on your chair. And then having awareness of the space all around you, the space in your room, and the universe. Good. And now that you're nice and comfortable, I invite you to start connecting with the breath, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Just noticing the natural rhythm of your own unique breath as it comes and as it goes. Good. Beautiful. And then noticing any sensations in the body, noticing any areas where you might be holding tension. Maybe the shoulders, maybe the hips, maybe the knees, low back. And if you're feeling any tension there, just send the breath to those places. Good. And during meditation, some people think that we have to drain our mind of any thoughts. And we know that as human beings, that's simply not possible. We have random thoughts going through our heads at all hours of the day and sometimes the night. So in meditation practices, we learn just to notice these thoughts and accept these thoughts without judgment, and then let them go. So like a leaf going through the air on an autumn day, let it go, let it go, let it go. Just know that any thoughts will not impact your practice today. So once again, connecting back with the breath, let the breath be your anchor. When you feel your thoughts drifting, always come back to the breath. Good. And now we're going to change things up a little bit by breathing just a little bit deeper. We're going to try a breathing technique called ocean breath or ujjayi breathing. This is when we have a normal inhale through the nose. And then when we exhale with an open mouth, making the sound, the ha sound. And I equate this sound with the sound that you make when you might be fogging up a pair of glasses to clean them, or fogging up a mirror. Or I like to think of it as the sound that a seashell has when you hold it up to your ear and you hear that gentle roar of the ocean, the ha sound. So we're going to try this together. Inhaling in normally through the nose and exhaling with an open mouth. Good. Let's try that again. Inhaling in, exhaling. Good. So I invite you to try this a few times on your own, at your own pace. Good. And we're going to try that again, this ocean breath, but this time, instead of having an open mouth on the exhale, you're going to close the mouth. The breath is going to come through the nose on the inhale and exhale, but you will still have that intentional sensation of the breath passing over the back of your throat, making that ha sound within. And we know when we breathe a little deeper, that actually kickstarts that parasympathetic nervous system to bring us even deeper into relaxation. So let's try that now, but this time with a closed mouth on the exhale. Beautiful, everyone. Now I invite you to bring your right hand to your heart and your left hand to your low belly. So just holding yourself here in this little gentle embrace. We're going to drop the breath down deeper. So from the nose down into the chest, the ribs, and the belly, I want you to feel the breath moving through the body. And so we do this in this manner, breathing in through the nose. We can feel the chest rise and the ribs rise and the belly press out towards your hand. Good. When we exhale, the belly contracts back toward the spine, the chest falls and the ribs fall. So this is called 3-part belly breathing. This is how the breath naturally moves through the body. And we don't even think about this most of the time when we're breathing shallowly. So we're going to do this together, breathing in, feeling the chest rise, ribs rise, belly pushes out. Breathing out, belly presses in, chest falls, and ribs fall. And I invite you just to continue breathing in this way on your own, to the rhythm and pace of your own natural breath. And I'm going to read some affirmations for our practice today. Affirmations are positive statements that we make to ourselves. And when we say that enough, they resonate deep within us and they become part of us. So as you continue to breathe, I choose my attitude, and today I choose gratitude. I am worthy of my own care and compassion. In the present moment, I find much for which I am grateful. And so just holding those words into your heart, letting them resonate deeply. This attitude of self-care and this attitude of gratitude. So I invite you to take the hand that's on the belly and place it over the hand that's on your heart so that both hands are now embracing the heart. We're going to do a little heart-focused breathing here. So when we do this type of breathing, when we breathe in and out of the heart, just imagine if you could breathe in and out of your heart. Imagine that the breath is coming in on that inhale and going out on the exhale right from your heart center. Just feeling that in the body. When we breathe from the heart, this actually changes the rhythm of the heart. So just like that deeper breathing, we reduce our blood pressure and heart rate, and it brings the brain and the heart and the body all into alignment in a physiological way. So when you breathe this way, you're actually doing wonderful things for the body. So I invite you just to feel that breath entering and exiting from the heart space now. And as you're breathing in this manner, just noticing the rise and fall of your chest. When you breathe in, your hands move away from the chest. When you breathe out, they come back towards your heart. And so think of this as a little hug for your heart in this moment. Just giving yourself all this compassion and love for everything you do every day for the loved ones in your care. Feeling your heart grow bigger and bigger. And now I invite you to think of one thing that you're grateful for in this moment. The first thing that comes to the top of your mind. Don't think too hard about it, just whatever rises to the surface. So breathing in through that heart space, something that you feel grateful for. And notice what this gratitude feels like in the body. You may feel a sensation of warmth, of light, of glowing from within. So just noticing what that feels like in the body. And let this feeling of gratitude fill your heart. Fill your heart to the brim until it's overflowing. Just noticing that good feelings that this brings. We know that gratitude has lasting effects on the brain and on the body. Releases us from toxic thinking, any kind of negative self-talk, improves immune function, improves your sleep, brings you out of depression and anxiety, just like the breath. The two go hand in hand. And so just a couple more rounds of breath, breathing in this manner. Good. And then letting that feeling of gratitude fill you and support you, I invite you to release the hands, placing them back on your knees or on your thighs. So now we're going to move on to the second component of self-care, and this is mindful movement. So we do a lot of chair yoga at Courage to Caregivers, and using the chair makes yoga accessible to everyone. And we do also do some standing postures using the support of a chair, holding onto the chair. For today, we're going to mostly be doing things right here in the chair. So the word yoga means union or to yoke, and this is the union of the mind and the body. Moving your body every day helps you release tension. It helps bring a little energy to the body, and it gives you a little bit of a distraction from whatever you're dealing with. Sometimes it's good to just go outside and take a brief walk, or even just a walk around your house to just kind of bring things back into alignment. So we're going to do a little bit of this, bring a little positive energy to you today. And maybe this is the first time you've had a chance to do a little bit of movement here. So we're going to start with some gentle movements of the head and the neck and the shoulders. We often carry so much tension here. We feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders. And so we're going to just close the eyes, check your alignment again, making sure you have a nice tall spine, that your feet are on the floor, and that your ears are over the shoulders. You're nice and grounded here in your chair. So we're just going to start to move the head in small circles around. Just noticing if there's any tense areas. If there are, just breathing into those areas. Or make your circles smaller. Good. And then bringing the head in the opposite direction, just moving it around here. Loosening up any tight places that might exist. Good. Beautiful. And then coming back to center, we'll just start to take the head a little bit from side to side. And so in yoga, we match the breath with the movement. So here we inhale in the center, and as we turn to the side, we exhale. So if you can do that, great. Just moving in a comfortable, supportive way. Beautiful. And then coming to stillness, coming to the center, we'll inhale, taking our gaze up to the ceiling. Exhale as we move the gaze down towards the knees. Good. Just getting a little motion, looking up to inhale, and exhale to bring it back down. Good. Lifting to inhale. Exhale to look down. Beautiful. And then coming back to center. So in our yoga practice in the chair, we often do a little bit of self-massage. We do this for the hands, for the feet. Today, we're going to be doing a scalp and head and face massage. So all you need are your hands and your fingers. It's very easy. We're going to take the hands, and we use not the fingertips as far as the fingernails. We just use the pads of the fingers for this. So I invite you to bring your hands to the back of the neck, the base of the skull. You might feel a little ridge there. That's the occipital groove. And just start to massage with your fingers, even using the thumbs, just giving your neck a little break here, maybe moving the head a little bit from side to side, just inviting in some gentle massage. Ooh, that feels so good today. Just letting that expand to the back of the head. So just the bony part of the skull back there. And then the crown of the head, just up on top of the head there, getting your fingers in there. Beautiful. And then taking the index finger and the middle finger of both hands, we're just going to start to massage the forehead in small circles. Just very gently, just massaging out those worry lines there. And then finding the temple. So just a little gentle circling there. We carry a lot of tension in the head. Good. And then the jaw, coming down to the jaw. We also tend to clench the jaw throughout the day. So we want to bring a little love to that area. Good. And then we're going to find the little area that attaches the upper jaw and the lower jaw. This is the temporomandibular joint. So coming from the temples, down from the temples, you'll feel that notch with your fingers there. And I invite you to begin massaging that space. And if you do, you might see something happen. It often makes you yawn. And this is called an energy yawn. This actually brings energy. Bring some positive energy to the body. And that might be just what you need in this moment, just a little energizing energy yawn. Good. Beautiful. And as that feels complete, just releasing the hands and placing them down on your thighs again. And from here, we're going to explore the 6 directions of the spine. When we move our spine in 6 directions every day, it keeps us flexible. It keeps all that spinal fluid moving and working to support the spine. The spine is the architecture of the body. So we need to move it in these 6 directions every day. So from here, we're going to bring the right arm up overhead. Left hand stays rooted to the chair. We're going to inhale as we lift through the crown of the head. Exhale as we bend to the left. Good. Opening up that whole right side body. Just feel that expand. Coming back to center, placing that hand back on the chair and lifting the opposite arm. Inhaling here. Exhaling as we bend to the right. Good. So you get the idea. You can continue this on your own, lengthening through the fingertips and keeping your sitting bones rooted into the chair. So this is a lateral movement of the spine. The spine moves side to side on the right side and the left side. Beautiful. Wonderful. Good. Just inviting in a little movement here. Good. And then just bring both hands back to the chair. We're now going to place these hands on the thighs. Take a nice inhale here as we move the hands toward the knees. We're going to arch the back slightly and take our gaze up to the ceiling, breathing in. Exhale, we're going to round the spine, tuck the chin to the chest as we bring the hands back toward the body. Good. And then inhaling to look up once again. Good. Exhaling to tuck the chin. So this is a little flexion and extension of the spine, or in yoga, we call it the cat-cow. It's a great movement for creating a little expansion between the vertebrae in your spine. And just notice how this feels in the body, just waking up the body with gentle movement. Good. Beautiful. And then coming back to center. So the last movement of the spine is torsion or twisting. So we're going to be twisting to the side. Again, get that tall spine in your chair, feet on the floor, nice and centered here. I'm going to take the right hand and place it on the left knee. Then we're going to twist to that left side, taking your left hand behind the chair, or you could leave it out in space behind you. But just this gentle twist, when you do, you're lifting through the crown of the head and just turning the torso to the left. Breathing here, breathing into that twist. Good. Beautiful. And then just coming back to the center here. Good. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. In yoga, we do things on both sides of the body to keep the body balanced. So we'll take the left hand to the right knee, bringing the right hand behind us as we twist to the right side, breathing in and breathing out. And then coming back to center. So that is the torsion of the spine. We'll do a couple more movements here. Lifting the arms overhead as we inhale, taking our gaze up to the palms. And exhaling, bringing hands down to your heart center. Good. This is called sun breath, welcoming the day. Inhaling, gathering up all that sunshine. We need it today. Exhaling it, bringing it down to the heart. Beautiful. And once again, inhaling to rise and exhaling, bringing down to the heart. Very nice. Let's place the hands on the hips. We're going to make sure our sitting bones are rooted into our chair, and we're going to start to take some hip circles. So moving from the waist, letting the head go with you as you round. Good. Just opening up those tight hips, hip flexors. Great. Beautiful. Oh, you all are amazing. I love it. And then let's go in the opposite direction. Good. Beautiful. Excellent. Okay. And then coming to stillness here, just placing your hands together at your heart and taking a moment to just notice how your body feels after you've had a little movement. So much of yoga is just noticing. It's bringing that awareness to the surface, really thinking about what's going on in your body. And when you know what's going on in your body, then you can find ways to take care of it if it's not feeling so great, if you're feeling stressed or tired. Good. So just noticing. Let's take those hands apart, place them back on the thighs. Now we're coming to the portion of our session here that everyone loves the most, and this is the deep rest portion. Deep rest is the fourth key component to self-care, and we don't give ourselves enough of it as human beings in this chaotic world. Rest is so essential to just being able to function well every day. So we're going to do a little bit of that now. During our Courage to Caregiver sessions, we usually give everyone about 15 minutes to really rest in deep silence. And we don't have time for that today, but I do have a short gratitude meditation that will take us through various parts of the body that we can feel grateful for each and every day. And so when we do this, we're going to close the eyes, and I will bring your awareness to these parts, and we'll think about that for a moment, and then we'll move on to the next. And I will give you about a minute or two to just rest in silence. So once again, finding our alignment, feet on the floor, seat on your chair, and just a nice tall spine here. You may close the eyes or leave them softly cast down in front of you, whichever is more comfortable. And so beginning to connect once again with the breath, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Just noticing the natural rhythm of your unique supportive breath as it comes and as it goes. Good. And I'd like to bring your attention first to your sense of hearing. Notice your ear's ability to hear in this present moment. Giving thanks for the sounds that you heard this morning, the voices of your loved ones, your family, your friends, the sounds that we hear in nature, the birds, the roar of the ocean, the sounds of a crackling fire, in appreciation for your sense of hearing. And now bringing your awareness to your sense of smell. Offer your appreciation for your olfactory system and for letting you breathe in the fresh air this morning. And for the ability to smell all the scents that make life worthwhile. Freshly baked cookies, the lovely scent of a blooming flower, the damp, earthy smell of the woods, of lavender-scented soap or a vanilla candle, in appreciation for your sense of smell. And now offering a little gratitude for your sense of taste, for your tongue and your taste buds, and your mouth for letting you taste your first cup of coffee or tea this morning, and for all the flavors of the fall, of pumpkin and nourishing soups and stews and chilies, for the spices that flavor your food, cinnamon, turmeric, curry, pepper, to all the flavors of the world that you're able to enjoy. And for this sense of smell, of taste, we give so much thanks. And now for your sense of sight, sending waves of gratitude for your eyes, the windows of the soul, for making it possible to see the faces of your loved ones, to take in all the richness of nature, of art, of beauty, in all of its forms, for your ability to read and be entertained through your vision. For this gift, we extend so much gratitude. And now for the sense of touch, for the feeling of the fresh air on your skin, for your soft blanket cuddled around you this morning, for the touch of a hand or a gentle caress, for the softness of the grass between your feet. We give thanks for your sense of touch. So take a deep breath now and notice what you're feeling in your heart. And just connect to this feeling of expansion in the chest, letting yourself truly savor the full spectrum of all of your 5 senses. So let this feeling fill you up and then let it go again. And continue to check in with your breath. Next, we find gratitude for your family, your friends that support you, your helpers, your teachers, your mentors, your professionals like doctors and therapists, your spiritual leaders in your church, your synagogue, or your mosque, all of the people that lift you up each and every day, people that you can depend on. In gratitude for your helpers. Take a deep breath, gathering and envisioning them all, and bringing them all into your heart space, holding them there for a few breaths. And now bringing your awareness to your shoulders, being grateful for the times that you've shouldered the burdens of those in your care, for the times that you've gathered them in your strong arms, for your hands that soothe and hold, in gratefulness for these parts of the body. And then bringing to mind your legs and your feet for the countless times you've walked miles and have gone the distance for your loved ones, in gratefulness for these parts. And next, for your strong back, your willingness to dig in and be a caregiver, in gratefulness for your back. And finally, feeling gratitude for your heart, your generous caregiving heart, and how your heart reaches out to those in your care each and every day. Your whole body is relaxed. Your whole body is completely and totally relaxed. Rest now in this knowing. Just rest. very gently and very slowly, begin to bring your awareness back to the body, starting to invite in a little bit of gentle movement, perhaps wiggling fingers and toes, maybe taking a nice full body stretch in your chair there, whatever you feel that you need to come back to the present moment, just moving in any little way. And blinking open the eyes. Good. I have a little closing quote from Rabbi Harold Kushner, and he says, "Can you see the holiness in those things you take for granted? A paved road, a washing machine. If you concentrate on finding whatever is good in every situation, you'll discover that your life will suddenly be filled with gratitude, a feeling that nurtures the soul." So bringing the arms up overhead, pressing the palms together, exhaling, bringing your hands to the heart and just letting your thumb knuckles rest there for a couple of breaths, feeling your own heart beating, feeling the rise and fall of your chest. I am so grateful to have been able to spend some time with all of you today. In yoga, we share a greeting at the end of our practice that acknowledges the light that resides within all of us. And so we share together that word when we say namaste.
Cathy, thank you so much for that beautiful embodied experience.
You're so welcome. I enjoyed
Yes.
it.
And, many times people in our programs on Monday nights start with breathing and meditation with our very own Cathy here. And then we go into support group. And many people over the last 4 years, Jenny, right, have asked us, why don't we end with breathing and meditation instead of start with breathing and meditation? But it was Polly who brought our vision to life for this program, who said, we need the embodied experience first for our topic and our curriculum to bring us into the present moment, to get us out of our heads where we're so good at spending most of our time as caregivers and into our bodies. And then we're ready to receive the message that is about to come. So Cathy, thank you for preparing the group for Jenny and I and our message that is yet to come, because we're halfway through our presentation and we're so grateful for you to getting us in the right space. So,
my pleasure.
And everyone, the quote is in the handout. All of the movements that Cathy did were in the handout. The affirmations are in the handout. So we're going to direct you to that handout one more time. It was in your email this morning. Jenny put it in the chat, which she'll do again here, and it will go in your follow-up email as well. So thank you, Cathy, for all of your beautiful sentiments.
You're welcome. Everyone have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Bye.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. Now we're going to dig in to our presentation. And I don't know why I have two versions up, but let's see if this is the right version. I think that is it, Jenny. There we go.
Wonderful. I am going to reshare the handout. I know our chat box is getting pretty busy, so which is great. We love hearing from you. But I want to make sure we have access to the handout if you need it.
We love having an engaged audience.
For sure. So Kristi and I are presenting now, so just be patient with us. If there are tech things that we have to deal with or chat things we have to deal with, you'll just have to give us a second, because you're looking at your tech support. It is Kristi and I, so. But I know I've been so grateful to engage with everyone in the chat, and I hope to continue to do that even as we present. So wonderful. Okay.
So thank you. Thank you for being with us. And we're just so thrilled to close out the summit with our very own presentation. And for those of you who weren't here yesterday when we started out, I'm Kristi. I'm the founder and executive director for Courage to Caregivers, founded from my own experience of caring for my brother who lived with anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, as well as suicidal ideation. We ultimately lost him to suicide in 2014, or as I often say, he lost his battle with mental illness to suicide. And my sisters and I, who were his primary mental and emotional caregivers at the time, realize that no caregiver should take this journey of caring for someone with serious mental illness or any serious illness for that matter alone. And as we look for options for community and connection, we couldn't find exactly what we were looking for because our hearts are truly for the caregiver. So that's how Courage to Caregivers came to be. And you're going to hear a little bit more about us from Jenny in a little bit, but Jenny, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. If we haven't met before, I am Jenny Woodworth, Director of Programs at Courage to Caregivers. I am a licensed social worker in the state of Ohio. I am a mother, a caregiving role that is challenging and beautiful and all the things. I also, again, in addition to this work as the Director of Programs, have started running one of our support groups again. That's how I kind of got introduced to Courage to Caregivers. I took my first job after staying home with kids, 2 hours a week running a support group, and it's kind of coming full circle again because Kristi and I are doing kind of an open office hours on Wednesday for one of our groups. And I know we didn't get to everyone's questions in the last session, and know that, you know, if you're looking for a place for support, we have options for you and you have places to ask questions. So I just want to invite you again, as I talk about programming, to just consider that if you're seeking support or connection. And I'll start by saying, oh, how are you feeling today? And I usually, sometimes when Cathy isn't with us, I do a quick breath work, and I'm going to not do that because she does a better job than I do. But what I want you to do is just check in with yourself after, you know, after you know, what we just felt, that embodied experience. And as Kristi mentioned, you know, we live in about this part of our huge bodies. So, you know, I mean, and I say huge in a wonderful way, because if you're living just right here, you're just listening to your brain, which honestly, as Cathy mentioned, doesn't stop. Many presenters today have asked you to kind of listen to your body, check in with yourself. How are you really feeling today? And I'd invite you to put that in the chat box. And while you're doing that, and I'll get to those, I just want to say options could be what we're talking about today. And these are, there's a spectrum here sometimes too. You could be flourishing, which is energetic, motivated, ambitious, flourishing in some parts of your life, languishing in others, like blah. We'll talk more about these definitions as we go. Feeling stuck, maybe, you know, some people may be at this conference because they saw this title, Getting Unstuck, which is the presentation title and the summit title. You know, are you feeling like you need something more, something different? Whatever it is, it's okay too. Feelings are just feelings. They come and go and ebb and flow. So I yawned so much during Cathy's. They weren't just power yawns, I think, or whatever she called them. She's so sweet. I guess I'm a little sleepy. People are less stressed, partially flowing, partially stuck, cold but calm. I love it. Cold but calm. Yes. Anybody else willing to share? Inspired, motivated, floundering. Okay. Yeah. All the things. Okay. Feel free to get those to keep rolling in. And Kristi, if you want to go to the next slide about, you know, what's the problem? And again, Cathy did a great experience or a great overview of this. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but this is what we see. You know, we come to these sessions and the work we do because we see a problem and we want to be problem solvers. We see compassion fatigue, we see caregiver burnout. And we know that these are related to languishing and flourishing. And so I wonder, you know, in the chat box, if you're done talking about how you're feeling, maybe have you ever experienced either of these? Mental, physical exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. Have you felt compassion fatigue? And compassion fatigue, it's normal. It's a normal response. And if I think a lot of the work, in addition to, you know, preventing caregiver burnout, we want to help normalize that compassion fatigue can be normal when you're caring for someone long-term who's sick or traumatized or all of those things. You're managing an extreme experience. Or, you know, so you're working with someone with an inconsistent illness, or maybe you're a professional caregiver managing caseloads of hurting people. Yes, burnout, compassion fatigue, these can be normalized. They are normal. Do we want to stay there? No. So I'm going to come back to the chat. Feel like I'm getting help to get unstuck, great, tired, sick, all but grateful this experience. Encourage, grateful, better than at 8 a.m. Amen. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. And many people are saying, I felt a lot of these. Every day is a new stress. Okay.
Mm.
Thank you all for sharing. There's comfort in normalcy, at least for me. So
Absolutely.
So what are we doing? What's the solution? And we're going to talk a little bit about what Courage to Caregivers does, but I really want to point out to this quote on the screen. I don't want this to add to your burden or stress. I want this to add to your awareness that family caregivers experiencing extreme stress have been shown to age prematurely. This level of stress can take off as much as 10 years off a family caregiver's life. So yeah, the work that you're doing is hard, is stressful. We want to support you in that. And we're all about coping and managing the stress of caregiving. So, added bonuses along the way that we like to help provide are personal growth and a quest and reminder for coping strategies for the caregiver. And again, many of these things you already know. You've hopefully learned some things at the summit, but maybe you were like, yeah, I know that, I get that. What we want to go to next is, how do you put this in place? And Mary and Allie did a great job of talking about that too. We do this besides throwing summits like this, which we enjoy. We do it every day we have 3 programs that support unpaid family caregivers. We have a peer support program. I talked a little bit about that yesterday in one of the sessions that matches caregivers in need with caregivers who have lived experience caring for someone with mental illness or for extreme illness. They meet via phone and they support each other. Eventually, it becomes this beautiful reciprocal relationship. We also have a breathing meditation, which Cathy so beautifully demonstrated. And we have 3 support groups that meet Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So Kristi, what would you like to add about languishing?
Thanks, Jenny. This is a word that was new to us in the pandemic. And it really came from this fabulous article by Adam Grant. And I encourage you to check it out on the New York Times if you haven't read it yet. And it's called, there's a name for the blah you're feeling. It's called languishing. And every time we do this presentation, we get someone saying, aha, you're giving me a name for that word, a word for something I've been feeling these last few years. And many of you who are professional caregivers, I know you know this word, but for the unpaid family caregivers, I didn't know this word. And so I'm not going to read this full definition for you. You can read that slide, but it wasn't burnout. We still had energy. And it wasn't depression. We didn't feel hopeless. We just felt somewhat joyless, aimless, and it turns out there's a name for that, languishing. Languishing. And so that's the word we want you to come to understand about some of these feelings. And it was indeed the dominant emotion in 2021. So Adam Grant's one of our favorite authors. He's written a lot of great books and really great to follow on social media. I encourage you to do that. Very inspiring. And when we read that article, Jenny and I immediately felt seen and understood. It was the normalizer for us and affirming not only our emotions, but it helped us to make sense of some of our behavior as the pandemic lingered. I know my capacity was not what it was before the pandemic, and I'm not sure it ever will go back to where it was pre-pandemic. So my capacity was very different. I couldn't read during the pandemic. I literally shut down from reading long novels. Luckily, some of that is starting to come back. And so if there's anything the pandemic has reminded us, naming and normalizing both ours and others, our loved ones, feelings are hugely important in honoring that. So in naming and normalizing, we can provide validation when we say things like, it sounds like you're feeling blank. Or help me understand, how are you feeling? It's understandable that you're fill in the blank. It's okay to feel fill in the blank. That must be really hard. That sounds like a normal reaction to a difficult situation. Just like when we recognized that we couldn't take away or remove the stress of caregiving for you, because we really wanted to do that when we formed Courage to Caregivers, but we realized pretty quickly at least within about a year, that we couldn't remove that stress of caregiving. And yet we can empower caregivers to better cope and manage the stress of caregiving, to give you those 10 years back. We were reminded that we can't make those hardened emotions and feelings go away. Yet, by better coping, we can support caregivers to notice, name, and validate those feelings, to better regulate their emotions. So that's what we're all about. That's what we're trying to do here. And so if you're wondering, what does languishing look and feel like, both in my body as I'm, more present and mindful after Cathy's meditation, it's that sense of stagnation and emptiness. It kind of feels like someone said once, you're like trying to walk through Jell-O. That's a really vivid image for me. It's really hard to walk through Jell-O. It might be blah. Jenny likes to say, meh, might be dull. My son with the traumatic brain injury. Yeah, whatever is been found to say. So it's that void between depression and flourishing. And it may look a little bit like depression. And yet when we're depressed, you can't get out of bed. When you're languishing, you're probably able to get out of bed and essentially go through your motions of the day. We've probably all felt that way. Depression is a quantifiable mental illness. Languishing is a series of emotions. It's an absence of well-being, an absence of feeling good or bad about your life. It's not functioning at full capacity. Languishing dulls your motivation, disrupts your ability to focus. In the beginning of the pandemics, our brains were on this really high alert for fight or flight. I remember it as if it was yesterday. Every single thing that came in my house, every piece of groceries was cleaned off with an antibacterial wipe. As the pandemic lingered, that acute anguish led to chronic condition of languishing. So you've heard about this physical long haul symptoms of COVID. I have some. I've lost my voice, essentially. Languishing is that emotional long haul symptom. So for Jenny and I, as we support caregivers, what we've noticed is that caregivers look and feel like they're stuck. And so with the desire to grow and get past that stuck in the languishing, and we know it's a goal to not just survive, because we don't want to just survive our days. We want to thrive. So we want to support caregivers to thrive again. It's thrival. And that's what we're going to talk about, getting unstuck, moving through that languishing so that we can continue to set goals for flourishing again. One of the hardest parts about languishing, as you may notice, is just normalizing it and naming it. So what does languishing feel like to you? And maybe, Jenny, they're already ahead of us because our audience is so engaged the last 2 days. What does languishing feel like for you? Remember, Jenny, it was that, meh. For me, it was like, whatever. What does it feel like for you? What's a word? And we'll see if we can normalize some of that before Jenny gets to talk about flourishing.
Yeah, I get the fun stuff. Indecisive, yeah. Oh, yeah. Two of you at the same time. Ugh.
Yes. We could add that to the slide.
Ellen, I love your sense of humor. The feeling when you chew gum too long. That's a really great image. Often I can't even think straight, knowing that there are things you need to do, lacking the motivation to tackle projects, anticipatory anxiety, living life in gray. Like that grayscale, weariness. Yeah. If you got to wiggle around, you're like, yes, that feels like something I've experienced. Feel free. Yeah, mine's like the meh or the like, I don't care, like I don't care. Where do you want to eat? I don't care. Living life through technology can feel like languishing. Interesting. Yeah, Kathleen. Feeling like someone turned your life upside down and shook it.
Those are also great.
Those
are also great.
Feels beige, maybe. Some people
might.
Yeah.
I love that. It's kind of like when you look at, yes. Oh, those are all great. Well, let's
run away.
Let's get flourishing. Let's start moving.
Okay, asking what's wrong with me. Okay. You asking yourself or other people asking you, I wonder. So let's talk. What is flourishing? I mean, it's the opposite of languishing. Just kidding. So there's more to it than that. Again, living that good life. you see on the screen. There's an actual Harvard Human Flourishing program, which I just love. It's that sense of purpose. And, I think Allie and Mary alluded to that a lot too, like, how do you want to live your life? What is the purpose here? What is your sense of purpose? It's about the feeling of positive emotions outnumbering those negative on most days. I think another way to look at flourishing is like when you're in the flow, there's activities that keep you out of just this space that are just all embodying, all encompassing. I hope you have those. If you like, knitting can be that for someone. And I'd love to hear in the chat box what helps other people flourish. Other things that can keep you in the flow are running for some folks, cooking. I like to sing. It's like something I've done my whole life. And I finally accepted that I am like a choir kid at heart, and made some moves on that. So that's something that feels like I'm flourishing when I'm doing that. Putting Legos together with my grandson. Oh, what a lucky grandkid. Okay. I bet that makes him flourish too. Making cookies. Any other flourishing looks? Agree with singing. Yeah. Kathleen, we should start a little choir. Walking with a friend, puzzles. Oh, that's right. Heather has this great reading book club for two for she and her husband, which I love. She mentioned that yesterday. Writing poetry, cardio drumming. Laughing. Playing the piano or auto harp. That's right. Wonderful. I love these. I'd like to talk about these for a long time. Volunteering at a nursing home. Qigong. Yes. What is cardio drumming? And what is Qigong? Those folks that put those in there, if you don't mind putting those in the chat box. So I want to connect in general with loved ones and friends, not on technology, probably, Kathleen, I'm guessing. Great. So rethinking flourishing. Oh, thanks, Kristi, for neatening up the notes there. That's so nice. I want to make sure that I can't forget this. So everyone deserves access to everything we need to flourish. I want to read that one more time. Everyone deserves access to everything we need to flourish. I don't want this to be flourishing isn't just for folks who can get to conferences, who have access to the internet, who have lots of money to spend on things. Collective flourishing requires a structural change. There's new information out there. There's flourishing research being done at the Greater Good Science Center. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I got that right. So we could do a whole presentation on rethinking flourishing. I want to acknowledge that even talking about flourishing shows some privilege here, because I'm not struggling due to social inequities in many cases. So we're going to talk a bit more soon about ways to flourish. And one of them is connection and community, something again brought up by Mary and Allie as well. If your community feels unsafe to you, it's socially or structurally or environmentally unsafe, flourishing is going to take more work. And I want to acknowledge that. Economic stability may be a challenge in your life, housing insecurity, food insecurity, it may be the furthest thing from your mind, flourishing. As you work to take care of your family and yourself. It may seem unattainable. So the human connection of flourishing here is I want to flourish, but in order to truly flourish, I need to help you flourish. And as someone who's passionate about justice and change, I need to work towards structural change. And that's not just me. I want to say I as like a collective here. So I want to also say flourishing is, you may be thinking, hey, Jenny, like, okay, this part's really good. Like my connection, like Allie and Mary were talking about, is really good. But the rest is just poop. It's just out the window. So this is an example of like thinking in extremes, that I must have everything in my life in order to get to flourish, all or nothing thinking. So even the definition on the previous slide said that all aspects of a person's life must be good. And I want to challenge that a little bit. I am not a flourishing researcher, just a social worker out here, but I want to instead look at like micro ways you can flourish, and how we know that parts of your life can need some gentleness and other parts are like doing great. So that was a lot. That was me going off for a second, but what gets in the way? So are there other barriers that you can mention besides the one I mentioned, the couple I mentioned? What are other barriers? Like what gets in the way of flourishing? And I also want to say Qigong is a type of moving meditation. Cardio drumming is like dancing while tapping drumsticks. Oh, I've seen that online. That's so cool. Okay, yeah. Drumsticks on a ball balanced on a bucket. Cool. Wonderful. I don't know how you could languish doing that, honestly. But I wonder if there's anyone else that could say something about what gets in the way of flourishing for you. What does that look like? I think for me, my never-ending to-do list, I get in the way. Guilt, mental illness, not enough hours in the day, life stressors, taking on too much, obligations, time, never-ending to-do list. Yeah, Janelle, you and me. Time, lethargy, fear, perfectionism. Yeah. Okay. Guilt, overwhelm. Okay. Those can all get in the way of flourishing. Anxiety. Yes. Okay. Sometimes when we have a little bit more time, codependency. Thank you for sharing that. I put ditto. Sometimes we have a little more time. We talk more about this quiz that I'm going to put in the chat now. This is a way to see kind of where you are or aren't flourishing in your life. It's again the Human Flourishing Project website. I've put it in the chat there, so you can take a look at that when you're offline later. You know, when you look at this, you're also going to say, hey, there are things missing here, like that sense of safety. It's hard to flourish when you're scared, when you don't feel safe. Think about if you were to make your own quiz, what that would look like. So there are domains. We love a good domain at Courage to Caregivers. It's kind of how we set up our curriculum. And there are domains of flourishing as well. And you could take a look at this: happiness, life satisfaction. Maybe you're flourishing more in character and virtue. Maybe your connection, your close social relationships. And that meaning and purpose is up there again. Can anyone look at this and say, yes, I am utterly flourishing in this one? I wonder if you'd share what domain of flourishing is your strongest. And I kind of reflected on this a little bit when I was doing Allie and Mary's activity today, that my sense of connection right now is pretty darn good. You know, those close social relationships. So that's going to be my domain. I'm going to put that in the chat. Anybody else feel like, yeah, meaning and purpose? Wonderful. Gosh. Anybody else go, oh gosh, this is mine. Kristi, where are you flourishing the most? I'm sure you've told me when we've done this presentation, but.
Well, I think it wavers, right, on any given day or moment or what's going on at home or in my loved ones' lives. But today I'm going to pick meaning and purpose. I think bringing this summit to life, having 200 caregivers register, and then having all of you show up today brings great meaning around, my experience of being a caregiver. And it's a great affirmation and validation of caregivers looking for support and looking to support each other.
Excellent. Meaning and purpose. Heather says talking to God, happiness and life satisfaction. Okay. So Kristi, do you want to?
Yeah. So now it's time to look at the second and third page of your handout that we linked in the chat earlier. You'll also get it in your email if you're having a hard time. We love a good plan. In addition to loving a good domain, Jenny, right? We love having things fit into those nice and tidy boxes. We also love a good plan, because here's what happened during the pandemic. We're like, oh yeah, people should focus on their health and well-being and self-care. But without a plan, it's really hard to make that a priority. And if we're going to help people move from languishing towards flourishing again, helping them get unstuck, well, let's help them frame a good plan. We're not going to write the plan for you. That would be enabling. You guys got to write your own plan, but we're going to give you the framework for a plan. And here's the thing. While I do love a good handout, call me what old-fashioned, Canva makes me look really great, like I'm a graphic designer. And so creating that plan was really fun. Jenny and I had a lot of fun putting that together, but truly the inspiration comes from the article that followed Adam Grant's article about languishing. It was an article about Danny Bloom in the New York Times. And her article was titled, "The Other Side of Languishing is Flourishing. Here's how to get there." And so we took her article and we broke it all down and we added in a few true courage to caregivers things and some of our own terminology, but she was the inspiration for creating a plan. And so we wanted to create you that little wallet card. So here's the thing, when we have a plan, we're more likely, I think we heard this from Allie too, we're more likely to accomplish our goals and get that thing done that we want to get done. Having a plan. And you can take our little plan, cut it out, and guess what? It fits really nicely in your wallet. So you've always got it. So in a moment of crisis, you can be like, where's that plan? Whip out your plan and remember. Any professional caregiver out there too, all of these tools are meant to be shareable. So we want them to be shareable with your clients and anyone you support. And then any caregivers who are here on behalf of someone else, please share our resources. Everything we do is meant to support caregivers. It's the ripple effect, and you're a part of that ripple effect. So we're going to create our Getting Unstuck plan, and we're going to go through all of these points as we get started in the rest of our presentation. And there's the second and third page of your handout. Again, makes me look like a graphic designer. I'm not, for the record, but it was a lot of fun to create it for you. And again, this is meant to share with your loved ones, for yourself. And please, please, please use it as we continue to move through in creating our plan. So any good plan, pretty much anything we do encourage to caregivers, including like one-on-one meetings with Jenny and I, we're so good at work. I don't know about you guys, but we're so good at work, and we both love to work, that sometimes we just like zoom in and get to work. And we both have to be like, no. We got to check in. We got to notice where we are. We got to pause. We'll get to the work. We'll get to this. We will never finish our to-do lists. I can guarantee that. And we will never get to every single email in our inbox, but we're pretty good at prioritizing, and we're pretty good at making some of those things happen. We make mistakes. It happens. We are human. But the first thing we always do is to check in, assess, and notice. So in this case, in creating a plan, it's where are you on this continuum between languishing and flourishing? And we want to point out, if we haven't already today, if I neglected to say this under the languishing materials, that if you find yourself tipping from languishing towards more of the depression end, that does require a clinical diagnosis. That's when you would seek out your therapist, your social worker, your clinical counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist. You need that diagnosis. If you're worried about yourself, your loved one, or a colleague, friend, neighbor, anyone, please encourage them to seek that support. We're going to talk today about the spectrum between languishing and flourishing. We're not going to address the clinical depression because that's left for the clinical team. We're going to focus on the languishing to flourishing piece for this purposes. So we want you to really keep that in mind. And so again, it's about noticing where you are on that spectrum. So just kind of check in, notice, and assess. Jenny, this is our favorite next part, although I am going to do a whole presentation on joy one day, because Brene Brown reminds me of foreboding joy, and I want to be able to not, address that too. Joy can be hard, but please tell us about micro joys, because maybe that's going to help someone with the concept of joy.
Yeah, so we like micro too, because we know that smaller things are easier. Sometimes we look at that to-do list and it's huge. It's like, call the contractor about leaky basement. Holy moly, like that is huge. So we want to focus, and even joy can be oppressive in that way. Like, oh gosh, well, I'm supposed to be having fun. It's 80 degrees outside. And I, the oppression of a beautiful day sometimes, but finding micro joys. What does that look like for you? I am the coffee cup, and I'm not just any coffee cup. I am a hot cup of coffee because that brings me a lot of joy. I spent many years as a mother of small children, drinking a very cold cup of coffee that I found maybe hours later. So I've been drinking my actual hot cup of coffee this whole time. That's something small that brings me joy. It's also pretty non-negotiable for me that I have a hot beverage at most times now. So that is another micro joy. Kristi, those are your babes on the screen.
It is. And guess what? It's nice and snowy out there today. So as soon as we're done here, my lunch break is going to be taking a hike with the pups. And you'll see they're in their coats because there's no such thing as bad weather in Northeast Ohio. It's only bad equipment. So we are totally geared up, and no matter what, we'll get out for a daily hike with those pups. They're a great reminder.
Yeah. So what about other people? I'm laughing at Mary right now in the chat box, who is drinking a cold cup of coffee. What about other people? What brings you joy? What is something small? What fills your soul? And again, there are no right or wrongs here. What brings you joy? Happiness, relaxation, feeling healthy, music, playing with my grandkids. Coffee is my happy place. The sight and smell of flowers. Oh, that's a great image. The dogs. Yeah, pets bring me a lot of joy. My pets, other people's pets. Oh, hearing a great song, fur babies serenading me when I return home from the grocery shopping. Hot coffee and dogs. Going to the movies alone. Ooh, hummingbirds eating from the window feeder. Lovely. Exercise.
Yeah. So nice. That is awesome.
Hanging with family, other people cooking for me. Oh my gosh.
Yes. These are our people today, Jenny. These are our people.
Those are my love languages, honestly.
Yes.
Listen to a favorite podcast in the car, Hot Fudge Sunday. Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, well, we want to make sure.
Reading a list of people's joys. Does that seem odd? Yeah.
No, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Someone else.
That's joyful.
Yeah.
I think that's joyful. And it's showing me a lot of gratitude also. When we can show gratitude for those micro joys, that's one of the ways we can build that gratitude practice. And we want you to know what makes you grateful, but to have a mindset of gratitude, and it truly is a mindset, you have to practice. And so Cathy started us very intentionally with gratitude as her focus today. That's one way to build that gratitude practice. And we all know that one way to do that is through creating healthy habits. Mary and Allie also talked about that today. And habit stacking is one of those really great tools. And if you don't know about it, it's from a really great book. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it's a really great way to build your habits. And we're going to use coffee again because we do love coffee. So if I want to add a habit of gratitude to my practice, I'm going to loop it around something I already do every single day. And you can guarantee I'm going to make that coffee every single day. So I'm going to wake up. I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to come downstairs and make that coffee. And now I'm going to build in a gratitude practice, write down 3 things I'm grateful for, and then 3 more. So again, you got to build it into a habit. Stacking those habits is a great way to build a mindset of gratitude. The next piece to our plan, thanks to Danny Bloom, is doing good deeds. And we all know that we can get out of our own heads and help someone else. We're moving along that spectrum towards flourishing. It's all about the little things, small acts of kindness, volunteering, really small favors, writing a note, send a text to a friend, pay it forward. What's your favorite good deed? We want to hear from you. And again, don't think really big, think micro. What are those little things that you could do? I know there's a lot of little ways you could help us. Just being here today is a moment. So thank you, all of you, for doing that good deed and showing up for us and your clients today. What are we seeing, Jenny? What are some of those things, micro good deeds that are out there?
Making gift baskets, helping others. I like to, if you've seen those free little libraries, sometimes they have food only ones. Sometimes I pick up things and throw them in there. I mean, I lovingly place them, just because it's like, I don't even know who's profiting from it. And I don't care. Like, you just eat. Yeah. Picking up trash from someone's lawn, making a public bathroom cleaner than the way I found it, food donation bags. Sorry if I'm missing things because there's so much good stuff. Making a phone call, reaching out to someone who may feel alone. Oh yeah, that connection, giving compliments, food donation bags this time of year.
Isn't that great? Look at all that. And sometimes just reading everybody else's good deeds might give you an idea. Again, think micro. They don't have to be big. All those little micro joys, micro good deeds are going to help us move a little bit closer to that flourishing. Jenny, tell us about how connecting in community also helps us move in that same way.
Yeah, I love these happy faces. Look at them enjoying grocery shopping though. So what I missed during the pandemic was smiling at strangers, like seeing faces, going to the coffee shop, just that little stuff. We're social beings, right? Wired to connect, as a wise woman says. Loneliness was a big part of the pandemic, and actually pre-pandemic, there was a lot of research doing. And again, Mary and Allie, there are people, they mentioned this, that it is being lonely is terrible for your health. And we have to figure that out. Connecting a community is one way to do that. Like, how do you bounce back from the loneliness during the pandemic if that's something that you experienced? I'm trying to engage, so how are you trying to engage as you feel safer, if you do, during COVID times? So some of us had a little too much family connection. You were homeschooling, you were working from home, you were doing the things. So what's next? I'm hoping you've made some motions to get back out there, but this takes a small risk. And I'm not talking about those of you that are immune compromised. I don't want to make light of that at all. What I'm talking about risk-wise is putting yourself out there of like, okay, am I going to return to church now? Am I going to start or ask to join a book club? Am I asking for space? Am I asking for space from the people I'm caring for, just to get out of the house for a little bit, if possible? So those are things to think about. Thanks, Kristi, for the reminder. So that's important. Connection and community, whatever that looks like for you.
We also want to talk about living purposefully, as we saw in those domains of flourishing. Meaning and purpose is a really important part to that. And we heard from many people in the chat, Jenny, that this was their strength. So we have a lot of content to still get through for you all. And I don't want to spend a ton of time here other than, as you evaluate this does not have to be that lofty, save the world, like Mahatma Gandhi moment. Brene Brown, who's my shero. I aspire and am inspired by her, but I'm not going to be Brene Brown. And yet, what are those micro moments that can lead you closer towards flourishing that are living purposefully? What do you look forward to each day? Can you reframe work? This is so hard. I'm making a difference. This person struggling, I helped them move a little bit today. Can you practice mindfulness and presence? We've spent so much time the last 2 days with you being present and focusing on mindfulness. I love that thread that we've woven in this week. In moments, taking a breath before responding. That's living purposefully. Our brain needs micro breaks. So remember to take those throughout the day and remember to be curious. When we lose our curiosity, we lose our innovation, we lose our moving forward. Continue to be curious in all ways. And we know that you can do that. We have faith in you. But again, think about micro ways. Jenny is really the queen at stepping outside the comfort zone. I don't know how I end up with this slide every time, but I do.
I know. Makes me giggle.
Yeah. But for me, I'll give you one small example. It was micro of how I wanted to step outside my comfort zone in the pandemic anyway. I'm a baker and love to bake for self-care. And I bake so that I can give it away. And that's where it becomes the self-care and joy for me. And that way I only will eat 1 or 2, but I do enjoy learning new recipes. And I was determined to learn how to make macarons. And so I taught myself how to make Italian and French. French are much easier, by the way. And there's a reason why macarons are $3 each in the store. They are very hard to make. But it took practice. I was determined to learn it. I was determined to teach myself. And ultimately I did. I don't make them very often because they are very time intensive, but it really is important to step outside your comfort zone.
Oh,
how do we pivot to SMART goals from comfort zone? I don't know, Jenny, but I'm sure you'll find a way.
So why are we talking about goals right now? It's another way to move from languishing to flourishing. We're going to talk a little bit about hope, but we have so few minutes. So I thought we had till 12:30. Bummer. I have so much to say to you all. We used to make goals in our groups, but again, we've also moved towards something like micro challenges, something smaller, so that is the handout here. I have a great calendar that people use. Yeah, I have to go in a few minutes. I get it. SMART goals here listed. Again, if the goals speak to you, please use a sheet like this. If you're like, ugh, I got enough to do, these little micro challenges, perfect ways to think about getting unstuck. Another way to look at languishing and flourishing is moving from A to B, moving from languishing to flourishing. And empowerment leads to motivation. So how do we model this for ourselves, for people we care about, for clients, if we're working in a professional role? You can be a role model for flourishing using some strategies from hope theory. And I can't get too much into this, but hope models, you can model hope, you can overcome barriers to achieve goals, you can help find your pathways to achieve goals, and you can encourage and support both yourself and other folks in your life.
Oops. And just because hope is really important to what we do, it's one of our core values and in our mission statement, hope goes with flourishing. Hope matters. You'll see this great quote by Dr. Shane Lopez. Hope can be learned and hope can be shared with others. And we do that through this ripple effect of what we do with you. And we know that you can model that and do that with those in your care. We have a whole presentation on hope. And so we hope that one day we get to share that with you. And it truly are these ripples of hope. And we just love this quote, right, Jenny?
Yes.
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that this PowerPoint and the recording will be in your email later this afternoon. And so you'll be able to refer back to this to get any of these great quotes that you would like. And I think, Jenny, in lieu of time, you should drop the evaluation in the chat for those who are interested in doing that while things are top of mind, which is great. And we're just going to close out here with our last slide and then take some time for questions. I close every presentation with these 7 C's. We've modified the 3 C's of recovery that we just love to include courage, compassion, and the fact that you can cope. So I have this printed out and a Post-it note and sitting by my desk because I think it's one of those things that I can't say enough on repeat. And especially as we're dealing with difficult loved ones or clients. So I didn't cause it. I can't cure it. I can't control it. I can't change it. And yet I can have courage, compassion, and I can cope. Those are our 7 C's. And we kind of leave you with that wisdom. And of course, we do welcome you to connect with us. All of our information will be in the follow-up email this afternoon. And the PowerPoint will be made available to you, the recording, all of the handouts, including the ones that we put in the chat. But we do want to take any questions that are out there. So we're going to stop the recording and